Welcome to the Meso History, unraveling the untidy truths of the past. Like and subscribe.
The night was cold. A late winter chill clung to Boston. Rain fell in sheets. It slicked the streets of the Fenway neighborhood. The city was mostly asleep. The date was March 18, 1990. It was the day after St. Patrick's Day. The celebrations had faded. A quiet unease settled over the city. Few knew this night would become infamous. A story of immense loss. A story that remains unfinished. The rain kept falling, washing away any clues before they were even left. It was a perfect night for a crime. At 1:24 a.m., a small red car pulled up. It stopped near a side entrance of the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum. Two figures emerged. They wore police uniforms. Their hats were pulled low. Their faces were obscured by the darkness and the downpour. They walked with purpose. They approached the museum door. They buzzed the intercom. Inside, a young security guard saw them on a monitor. He saw the uniforms. He saw the serious demeanor. He felt no immediate alarm. Police officers were a common sight. But these were not real officers. They were thieves. The most audacious art thieves in history. Inside, the museum was a sanctuary. It was a palace of art and history. Isabella Stewart Gardner's personal collection was priceless. She had built this place to share beauty with the world. It housed works by masters: Rembrandt, Vermeer, Degas, Manet. Each piece was carefully placed. Each room told a story. The museum was a living testament to one woman's vision. It was a quiet, sacred space. On this night, its peace was about to be shattered. The guards on duty were young. They were musicians. They were students. They were not prepared for what was coming. They were simply watching over a silent house of treasures. The guard inside, Rick Abeth, hesitated for a moment. Museum policy was strict. No one was allowed in after hours. No exceptions. But the men outside looked official. They said there was a report of a disturbance. They needed to come inside. Abeth made a fateful decision. He broke protocol. He buzzed them in. The heavy door clicked open. The two men stepped out of the rain and into the warmth of the museum. The trap was set. The night's dark purpose was now in motion. The greatest art heist in modern history had just begun. And no one, not the guards, not the city, had any idea what is happening. The two men entered the lobby. They were calm. They were controlled. Their uniforms gave them an air of authority. The guards met them. Rick Abeth, Randy Heston. The men said they recognized Abeth. They claimed there was a warrant for his arrest. It was a lie, a simple, effective lie. It was designed to create confusion, to disarm. Abeth was told to step away from the security desk. He was ordered to face a wall. The illusion of a routine police matter was perfect. Abeth was handcuffed. He was led away from the only alarm button. The thieves knew the layout. They knew what to do. They asked him if anyone else was in the museum. Abeth told them about his partner, Randy. The second guard was called to the security desk. He arrived to find his partner in cuffs. He too was quickly restrained. The guards were powerless. Their authority was gone. The thieves were now in complete control. They were not violent. They were methodical. Their actions were precise. They were following a plan that had been carefully rehearsed. The thieves spoke to the guards.
"Don't give us any problems," one of them said, "and you won't get hurt."
They wrapped duct tape around the guards' eyes. They wrapped duct tape around the guards' mouths. They led them down to the basement. It was a cold, dark space, far from the priceless art. The guards were handcuffed to pipes. They were separated from each other. They could hear nothing but the hum of the building's machinery and the rain outside. They were left alone in the darkness. Above them, the museum was now an open treasure chest. The thieves had 81 minutes, an eternity, to steal a fortune. The heist was underway. The museum was theirs. The galleries were silent. The masterpieces waited on the walls. They had hung there for nearly a century, unmoved, undisturbed. But tonight was different. The thieves walked through the Dutch room. They moved through the short gallery. They were not admiring the art. They were shopping. Their footsteps echoed in the empty halls. Each step brought them closer to their targets. The world outside was oblivious. The city slept. And inside the Gardner Museum, history was being stolen, piece by irreplaceable piece. The loss was just beginning. The thieves moved with chilling confidence. They left the basement and ascended the stairs. Their destination was clear. They walked directly to the second floor. They entered the Dutch room. This was the heart of the heist. The room was dark, but they knew where they were going. They carried flashlights. The narrow beams cut through the blackness. They danced across the faces of ancient portraits. The thieves ignored most of them. They had specific targets in mind. They were not art lovers. They were professionals on a mission. Their movements economical and swift. The silence of the gallery was heavy, broken only by the soft sounds of their boots on the old wooden floor. Their first target was a small painting, a self-portrait by Rembrandt. It was painted on a small piece of wood. It was intimate, vulnerable. One of the thieves tried to pry it from the wall, but the frame was bolted down securely. He struggled for a moment. Frustration flickered. He gave up. The small Rembrandt would survive the night. But this was just a momentary setback. They turned their attention to the larger prizes. The room held some of the museum's greatest treasures. It was here that the most devastating losses would occur. The thieves were undeterred. They simply moved on to the next item on their list, a list that existed only in their minds. Next, they approached a large frame. It held a masterpiece, The Storm on the Sea of Galilee, Rembrandt's only known seascape. The thieves did not bother with bolts or wires. They took a more brutal approach. They laid the painting on the floor. One of them produced a knife. The sharp blade sliced through the canvas. The sound was sickening. A quiet, tearing noise that echoed the destruction. They cut the painting directly from its stretcher. This was not the careful work of an art handler. It was a savage act, a violation. The masterpiece was reduced to a roll of fabric, crude and unceremonious. They were not finished in the Dutch room. Their eyes found another Rembrandt, a lady and gentleman in black. It was a larger, more formal portrait. Again, the knife came out. Again, the canvas was cut from its frame. The thieves worked quickly. They showed no emotion, no reverence for the history they were destroying. They were treating these priceless works like common goods, like posters to be rolled up and carried away. The empty frames were left behind. They were like open wounds on the gallery walls, gaping reminders of what was taken. The heart of the Dutch room was being ripped out, piece by devastating piece. The most dramatic of the stolen works was The Storm on the Sea of Galilee. It was a painting of immense power. It depicted a boat tossed on violent waves. Jesus and his disciples were caught in a squall. Light and shadow fought for dominance. It was a scene of chaos and faith. Rembrandt had even painted himself into the scene. He is the man in the middle of the boat, looking out at the viewer. He holds onto his hat, struggling against the wind. It was a work of profound human drama, a story told in oil and canvas. For nearly 100 years, it had captivated visitors in this quiet room. Now it was being handled like a piece of worthless cloth. The thieves had placed it face down on the hard floor. The pressure could have cracked the ancient paint. The cutting was rough, jagged. They were not concerned with preservation. They just wanted the image. They wanted the prize. When they lifted the cut canvas, it left behind an outline of itself. A ghost on the stretcher bars. A perfect rectangle of absence. The frame, now empty, was a hollow monument to the violence of the act. The storm in the painting had been silenced. The drama was over. All that remained was the quiet horror of its theft. The loss was immediate and total. It was a hole in the art world that could never be filled. They rolled the massive canvas up. It was a clumsy, difficult process. The painting was large. It was over 5 feet tall. The oil paint, centuries old, was delicate. Rolling it would cause irreparable damage. Cracks would shatter the surface. Flakes of paint would fall away like dust. The thieves did not care. Their goal was possession, not protection. They treated the masterpiece with a shocking lack of concern. This was not a crime of passion for art. It was a cold, calculated seizure of assets. The rolled canvas was just another item to be transported. Another piece of loot from a successful night's work. The thieves would carry it out of the museum like a roll of carpet. The act was an insult to Rembrandt, to Isabella Stewart Gardner, to everyone who had ever stood before the painting in awe. The storm was gone, the sea was gone, the light was gone. All that was left in the Dutch room was the empty gilded frame and the chilling silence where a masterpiece used to be. The heist was proving to be as brutal as it was audacious. After taking the two large Rembrandts, the thieves turned their attention to another wall. There hung a painting of quiet, luminous beauty. It was Johannes Vermeer's The Concert. This was perhaps the most valuable piece in the entire museum. There are only about 36 known Vermeer paintings in the world. This was one of them. It depicted two women, a man, playing music in a sunlit room. It was a scene of perfect harmony, a moment of peaceful, civilized life frozen in time. The light in the painting was soft. The mood was serene. It was the opposite of the violent Rembrandt seascape they had just stolen. It was a painting that whispered. Unlike the Rembrandts, the concert was small. It was painted on canvas, but it was not large enough to require cutting. The thieves were more careful with this one. Perhaps they knew its immense value. Perhaps its smaller size simply made it easier to handle. They did not slash it from its stretcher. Instead, they worked to remove the entire painting from its frame. They popped it out of its backing. The process was quick, efficient. It was another cold, mechanical action. There was no hesitation, no moment of appreciation for the rare beauty they held in their hands. They were simply removing an object from its container. The loss of the concert was incalculable. It was valued at over $200 million.